joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. And the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known.
This one goes out by special request from our pastor.
It's really small.
I know.
I'm so sorry.
I got nothing to help you with that. The song was originally by C.C. Winans, and I just hope that we do it justice. I like to think we do okay.
Here we go. Now I can see it.
It's called Alabaster Box.
The room grew still as she made her way to Jesus. She stumbled through the tears that made her blind. She felt such pain. Some spoke in anger, heard folks whisper, "There's no place here for her kind." Still on she came, through the shame that flushed her face, till at last she knelt before his feet. And though she spoke no words, everything she said was heard as she poured her love for the master from her box of alabaster. And I've come to pour my praise on him like oil from Mary's alabaster box. Don't be angry if I wash his feet with my tears and dry them with my hair. Oh, you weren't there the night he found me. You did not feel what I felt when he wrapped his loving arms around me. And you don't know the cost of the oil in my alabaster box. I can't forget the way life used to be. I was a prisoner to the sin that had me bound. And I spent my days pouring my life without measure into a little treasure box I thought I found, until the day when Jesus came to me and healed my soul with the praise on him like oil from Mary's alabaster box. Don't be angry if I wash his feet with my tears and I dry them with my hair. You weren't there the night he found me. You did not feel what I felt when he wrapped his loving arms around me. And you don't know the cost of the oil. No, you don't know the cost of my praise. And you don't know the cost of the oil in my alabaster box.
Thank you, church. It's my privilege to hand it over to our pastor. Children's church is dismissed. We do have a younger kids class and an older kids class. They'll sort you as you go upstairs.
It's going to take me a minute to recover from that one. You know, I was listening to him a little bit earlier. It sounds like Anna can preach. Well,
That's right.
y'all keep praying about that, and you might hear her up here one Sunday.
I like that. That's what she does upstairs.
Yeah. Last Sunday, I think it might have been Sunday or Monday, I posted something on Facebook that may have been misunderstood. I wrote that I have been honored to be the pastor of this church for 33 years and how much I loved everybody here, and I didn't say any more, and I got a ton of private messages. They thought I was going to quit. Let me just clear the air on that. Y'all going to have dragged me over here kicking and screaming. I've known for quite a while that I'm going to be here for the rest of my life. Now that almost ended on December the 30th, but God spared me for a while longer, so I'm grateful to be here. The reason I wrote it was Donna and I met privately with a very dynamic young couple that really had a desire to help a church they were involved in, but they were very, very discouraged because their new pastor got fired for preaching 30 minutes over. And he was a really good preacher and all, and they didn't know what to do. And all the way home, I kept repeating like I had dementia to Donna, thank God for Solid Rock. I just kept saying that over and over. Folks, a lot of you have no idea what you have. And I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about your church and what you have with each other and the fellowship that you have and the ability that you can be something for God without somebody telling you you're not worthy. And I just think it's wonderful. And please don't ever let the devil give you an excuse for not being in his house, because that could be taken away from us in a moment of time. So always appreciate what God has given you. I know I do. I really do. I love this church. I love the people here in the fellowship. You all feel like family. And no, I'm not leaving. I have no plans. Who would have me anyway, for crying out loud? You know, I could see how that I'd be thrown out too. So anyway, I want to bring you a message or a Bible study or whatever you want to call it from Luke chapter 7. All the Lord showed me was Luke chapter 7, and do what you got to do with it yesterday. And I kind of entitled it, Speak the Word, Lord. Because a lot of times we think that we can only get a hold of God if we repeat all these different things and do all this and do all that. And Jesus said, don't do that. He said a lot of heathens think they're going to be heard for their much speaking. He said, get to the point. And so we see that here, that all you need to do is trust the Lord by let him speak the word over your problems. It said here, now when he had ended all his sayings in the audience of the people, he entered into Capernaum. And a certain centurion's servant, now that's a Roman soldier that has 100 soldiers under him. The Romans were known as pagans, heathens, enemies of Israel. But here was a Roman centurion that's going to come to Jesus for what he needs. A certain centurion's servant who was dear unto him was sick and ready to die. And when he had heard of Jesus, he sent unto him the elders of the Jews, beseeching him that he would come and heal his servant. And when they came to Jesus, they besought him instantly, saying, he's worthy for whom he should do this. In other words, Lord, he's done a lot for us. And you know, though, that didn't matter to Jesus anyway, but they thought they would make the case. And for he loved our nation, and he even built us a synagogue. That is a big deal, though. Then Jesus went with them, and when he was now not far from the house, the centurion sent friends to him, saying unto him, Lord, trouble not yourself, for I am not worthy that you should come under my roof. Wow. Wherefore neither thought I myself worthy to come unto you. But here we go. But say in a word, and my servant shall be healed. You need to remember that when you pray. And tell the Lord, just say in a word, and it'll get done. And I've seen it over and over and over again happen. And then he explained that he understood what having authority was and being able to command people. He said, for I also am a man set under authority, having under me soldiers. And I say unto one, go, and he goeth, another, come, and he cometh. And to my servant, do this, and he does it. And when you will not find this following phrase anywhere else in the Word of God, what I'm going to read you. It said, when Jesus heard these things, he marveled at him. That word meant that Jesus was amazed and in awe of a Roman soldier. You would think that if Jesus was going to marvel at anybody, it would be one of the apostles or one of the great leaders of the time or whatever, but it didn't. It was a Roman soldier. And it said he marveled at him and turned him about and said to the people that followed him, I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. Here was a Roman soldier, had no training in the ways of God, but he believed Jesus enough to say, speak the word. That's all you got to do. You don't have to come in my house. You don't even have to lay hands on him. You don't have to do anything for my servant. Just speak the word and it will happen. What incredible faith to believe that. And if we're ever going to see a manifestation of God's power, we're going to have to get faith on that level. We're going to have to get to that point. You know, so many times we'll ask God for something, but we got a plan B and even a plan C if that don't work. Well, what would you do and how would you react if all you had was God to depend on? Would your faith increase? Would you be willing to say to him, just speak the word, Lord? That's the level we've got to get to if we want to see things happen. And it said, and they that were sent returned to the house and found the servant whole that had been sick. And it came to pass the day afterward. Here is another, speak the word. He goes into a city called Nain. And many of the disciples went with him, and much people. And when he came near to the gate of the city, behold, there was a dead man carried out, the only son of his mother. Now let me stop there and tell you why that was such a big deal. When a widow, when her husband died, she was in trouble unless she had a son to take care of her. There were no government programs. There were no churches to take up an offering to help. There was nothing. You were on your own. That's why when you read about Elijah going, and there's this woman, a widow woman, and there had been a drought, and she was gathering sticks to make a little fire, and she was going to make a biscuit and a little bit of water, and that was the last meal her and her son, because her son was a child and couldn't take care of her. They were going to die after that until Elijah fixed that. But here was one where they were carrying out a dead man, and the only son of his mother. And she knew she was in trouble too. It says she was a widow, and much people of the city was with her. And when the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her. And he said unto her, weep not. And he came and he touched the bier. And they that bare him stood still. And he said, he made them stop. They were carrying him out on this thing like a stretcher. And he made them stop. And he looked at the dead man and said, young man, I say unto you, arise. And he that was dead sat up. I bet people were running to get out of the way that time, won't they? Yes, sir. Revival broke out. All Jesus had to do was speak the word and the dead rise. You know, a lot of scholars that know a lot more than me made the statement one time when Jesus stood outside of the tomb of Lazarus and yelled, Lazarus, come forth. If he hadn't have specifically said Lazarus, everybody that had died would have come out of all the tombs. That's the power that he has, and we rarely count on it. We rarely ask for it. We rarely believe it. But all he has to do is speak the word. And he that was dead sat up and began to speak, and he delivered him to his mother. And there came a fear on all, and they glorified God, saying that a great prophet is risen up among us, or that God had visited his people. That's the truth. And this rumor of him went forth throughout all Judea and throughout all the region round about. Speak the word. It's all he had to do. And we get so worried all the time. And we all do that. There's ain't no need acting like a hypocrite. When a problem comes along, we get all worried up about it. And what are we going to do? Is God really there? Is he paying attention to me? Does he see what I'm going through? Does he see the problem? Will he do anything? Or do I need to have another plan or another backup plan or whatever? But like I said, when you get to the point to where there is no plan B, even Carmen wrote a song called that. When there is no plan B, that's when God can really do his best work. There are a lot of people that are not in the house of God today, wherever they may be attending, because they are in fear of a situation they're dealing with. They've been given bad news by the doctor. I kind of laugh at that nowadays. And no disrespect to the doctors. I got good doctor friends that I love, and thank God for them. But they do not have the last word. Please understand that whatever you might be suffering from right now, The doctors do not have the last word. They can only diagnose on what they're trained to diagnose. But I've watched people and sitting in here right now with the most impossible odds that you ought to be dead right now, and you're sitting in here worshiping the Lord. So please don't, and all Jesus had to do was speak the word over you. And look at where you are now. So please do not worry over your situation when bad news comes along, because I'm telling you, he is able. He's able. Now let's drop down to verse number 36. This goes along with that song that they sung this morning. Amen. One of the Pharisees, and this Pharisee's name was Simon the leper. And, well, he did have leprosy, but he didn't anymore. He desired Jesus that he would come and eat with him. And so he went into the Pharisee's house and sat down to eat. How like Jesus that is. He did not care what denomination or what affiliation or what they had. They invited him, he'd come. And he would sit down and eat with them, because he didn't come there to conform to what they did. He was there to save them and change them. That's when Jesus would come to the house. And when he left, nobody in that house was ever the same again. And he sat down to eat. And behold, a woman in the city, which was a sinner, when she knew that Jesus was eating in the Pharisee's house, she brought an alabaster box of ointment. And it's made out of a type of translucent plaster. And they still make alabaster today, and it's very, very beautiful. And this was literally her treasure chest, because inside that little alabaster box that she had was ointment that was almost a year's wages in there. A lot of money that it was worth. And doubtless that's about probably all that she had. And she brought that with her. And she stood at his feet behind him, weeping, and began to wash his feet with tears. That's a lot of tears, buddy, that she was in such a condition of repentance and sorrow that she washed his feet with tears, and then wiped them with the hairs of her head, and kissed his feet and anointed them with the ointment. What a sight that had to have been. And now when the Pharisees, which had invited him, saw it, he spoke within himself, saying, this man, if he were a prophet, would have known who and what manner of woman this is that toucheth him, for she is a sinner. But not only did Jesus know who she was, but he understood the thoughts of the Pharisee and read his thoughts as well. There's nothing that got by him. And so Jesus answered and said unto him, Simon, I have something to say to you. And he said, Master, say on. He said, there was a certain creditor which had two debtors. The one owed 500 pence, and that's more than a year's wages, and the other only 50. And when they had nothing to pay, he frankly forgave them both. Now tell me, therefore, which of them will love him the most? Think about that. And Simon answered and said, I suppose that he to whom he forgave the most. And he said unto him, you have rightly judged. There are people sitting in churches today that think they've done God a favor by coming to church. They felt like they've been good all their life, or they've never gotten into trouble or anything like that. But they don't realize that's not the way God looks at things. That's not the way. We are all worthy of hell, every single one of us. And we are all debtors just as bad as the worst thug that got saved. But we don't see it that way, but God does. And these folks right here didn't see it that way either. That Pharisee said, you know what, she's up in my house and she's a sinner, and you don't know who that was that came up to you. Doesn't matter who that was. And Jesus said, you have rightly judged, when he said those the one you've forgiven the most. But you can tell people that have come out of the worst messes where God has forgiven them because they do seem to love God the most. But you know what? If you think you've been good all your life, you need to fall in love with the Lord and realize that he saved you from the same pit. You need to realize that. And he turned to the woman and said unto Simon, see this woman? I entered into your house. You gave me no water for my feet, but she washed my feet with tears and wiped them with the hairs of her head. You gave me no kiss, but this woman, since the time I came in, hath not stopped kissing my feet. My head with oil you did not anoint, but this woman hath anointed my feet with ointment. Wherefore I say unto you, her sins, which are many, are forgiven, for she loved much. But to whom little is forgiven, the same loveth little. And he said to her, your sins are forgiven. And when those that sat at meat with him began to say within themselves, who is this which forgives sins also? And he said to the woman, your faith hath saved you. Go in peace. In one of the verses in the Bible, when Jesus told somebody their sins were forgiven, they said, who is this that says that? Only God can forgive sins. Well, they are right. Only God can forgive sins. But Jesus is God. And he had the authority on earth to forgive sins as well. A lot of people do not realize just who it is that you are being asked to trust. It's not only the Son of God, but God the Son, the one that loved you enough to die for you and rise from the dead for you. And so you need to realize you're in good hands with Jesus. You shouldn't fear. You shouldn't worry about whether you have a backup plan or not. Let him speak the word and get it done. One of the Hensons from the famous Henson family wrote a poem and said, if it's a foreign battlefield where I finally find your will, oh, then that is where I long to be. In the desert without a drink or on some ship about to sink, Lord, I will go if you'll just speak to me. Speak the word, Lord, my ears long to hear you. Speak the word, Lord, my heart aches to know. Speak the word, Lord, I'll be what you'd have me to be. Speak the word, Lord, and your servant will go. Now there have been times I complained as life rubbed against the grain, and I recall those times you took me to my knees. But there is one thing I can do, so I will give this thanks to you, that you, Lord, who took my cross to Calvary. Speak the word, Lord, my ears long to hear you. Speak the word, Lord, my heart aches to know. Speak the word, Lord, I'll be what you have me to be. Speak the word, Lord, and your servant will go. Maybe there are some of you this morning that need him to speak the word over you. Maybe it's an illness, or your heart is troubled about something, or you have a need, or you've never accepted Christ before. Come and let him speak the word over you. Trust him and just tell him, Lord, I trust you today to speak the word over me and to fix this problem that I have. Shall we stand? I'm going to ask if Candy would play a song of invitation. Prayer warriors, will you please come and stand to receive anybody that needs prayer? If you need prayer, come and take one of the folks here by the hand that's standing down here. Let them pray with you, or maybe you just need to come around the altar.